to the world of sailing. You've just bought yourself a ticket to a lifetime of new experiences and countless pleasures. Sailing is like nothing else. It's a dream and a sport and a way of life, all within reach of most everyone. One of our main missions at Sail Magazine is to introduce as many people as we can to this exciting sport and to help those of you who are already captivated to grow and to learn. This video is a step in that direction. And over the next hour and more, top instructor Rob MacLeod is holding classes, first in dinghies at a sailing school, and then in larger keelboats off the coast of Florida and in the Thousand Islands. I know you'll have a good time, and you'll learn a lot too. Don't forget to review the tape often as you practice and develop in your skills. And most of all, have fun.
Dinghies are a good place to start learning. They're thrilling, physically demanding, and very responsive to the wind. So if you really want to understand how sails work, you can't beat small boats for a basic grounding in sailing. Most of the world's top racers started in dinghies, and some have never left them behind. They're wonderful for tootling around small lakes and rivers, and they are a challenge for thousands of club racers who test their skills every summer week. Welcome to lesson number 1.
For lesson number 1, we'll join a class of nautical neophytes who are about to have their first encounter with Skipper Rob.
How you doing? Good. You all got your jackets on, done up? Yeah, Tim? Okay, great. Thank you very much. This is it? My name's Rob MacLeod. I'm going to be your instructor today. This is Terry Turrell. He'll be working with me. And you've got good shoes on, all soft-soled shoes. That's great.
Why?
That's
what
it.
do normal people wear?
Well, we've had people show up in high heels and work boots and that sort of thing, and you just slip and slide all over the decks. It's too dangerous. I'm glad to see you are wearing proper footwear. We're using a Wayfarer, so let's get right into it so we can get on the water as soon as possible, okay? First thing I want you to do is be very careful when you're getting on the boat. We've got a boat that moves around quite a bit. Okay, so when you step on a boat, I want you not to step on the side deck, but get a good hold of a shroud and step right into the boat, into the center of the boat.
You mean you can tip here at the dock?
Oh yeah, it's quite possible to tip. So we want to make sure you're getting in and out very carefully.
Good start we're going to be at.
We don't want you to get wet yet. Getting out of the boat, it's the reverse. Grab a hold of the shroud, step out past the deck, and onto the dock. Nice and careful, no accidents, okay?
Why is there red and green tape on the sides of the boat?
Sailboats don't have left and right, they have port and starboard. And this will help you remember, if you remember that port wine is red, you remember that the left side or the port side is red. Okay, so look at that. We'll also use this later on in navigation and in right-of-way rules.
So
Okay,
if you still don't know your left from your right, ask yourself, is there any port left? Terry Turrell's director of the Humber College Sailing School.
Okay, Colleen, make sure you get a good hold of that shroud and step right into the boat. Careful now. That's good. Okay, keep your weight low and sit down. Okay, now what you want to do now is bring that centerboard back, and it'll protrude into the water to give your boat more stability. That's good.
A centerboard is like a retractable keel that comes up from a hole in the bottom of the boat.
Into the middle on the floor.
Rob, there's a lot of water in this boat.
Liz asked a good question about the water in the boats. Look for the bailer.
Here's a cheap tip.
See, John's got
Use an
his.
empty
Take
plastic
out the water
jug.
with the bailer. We're required to have that by law, so make sure you've got it in your boats, please. Okay, everybody's boat looks pretty dry now. Let's put the bailers away, and we're going to get ready to do the next drill. Can I have you all out here on the dock? Okay,
Now
this
Rob's
part
going to
of the
show
drill-
us the
Thank you.
fine art of stepping onto a boat that's tied bow
Now,
on.
when you're getting on the boat, I want to make sure that you get a good grip on the forestay. That's the wire that's holding the mast up. Your foot on the center of the deck. So getting on the bow, we do get on the deck. And then one nice smooth movement through and onto the mast. Make sure you don't step on the sides. If you step on the sides, you've got a boat that's heading towards the water very quickly. Okay. And then make your way right into the center of the boat.
This may look like a test for seasickness, but in fact, we're testing the boat's stability with the centerboard down.
Nice rocking motion, okay?
That's the best setup I think I've ever done. Whoops, you gotta hold on.
Okay, Liz, let's bring your centerboard up now, too. See the difference?
Why?
Well, you see the difference in stability of the boat with the board up and down. See how much more
He's
rock?
right. Sailing a dinghy is something of a balancing act. This little rock by the dock is a good rehearsal before we actually pit our weight against the wind when we finally get underway.
Come on, Colleen, get out there.
In a dinghy, there is a centerboard which protrudes into the water. It keeps the boat from being pushed sideways by the wind. Skipper and crew provide the ballast. By moving their weight, they balance the boat. And when you develop some confidence and skill, you can try out a trapeze that allows you to hike out over the water.
Sailors have a lingo all their own, so to make it easier for us to learn the parts of the sail, Rob's created a game of nautical scramble.
You're now called Luff.
Oh, that's lovely.
Robert, your foot. And this clue here.
Does she have one? Ha, ha, ha.
Albert's a little tacky. John, okay.
And we call ourselves adults.
Right here, up the front edge of the sail, foot, bottom edge of the sail. The head is the other end of the sail, the top, the head, yes. Okay. Deborah, you've got clue, corner right on the outside end of the boom. And we have the tack. You're the bottom corner right down here. So you go to that corner and leech it. The only open spot left, the back edge of the sail. Okay? So we've got 3 parts of the sail. We've got 3 corners and we have 3 sides. Just going around, we have the head, the luff, the the tack, the foot, the clue, and the leech. 3 corners, 3 sides. Let's see how well you've got that now. I want you to put the cards face down on the side of the sail you're on. Face down. Okay? Now, I want you to go clockwise around the sail. Ready? We don't have other clockwise, Maureen. There you go. Around we go. Ring around the sail. If you can think of an appropriate song. Okay, and stop. Get beside a black card. Everybody got a card? Great. You're going to go first, Tim. What part of the sail are you?
I am the head.
Pick up the card and see. Yay! There you go. Okay, now down here at the back of the boom. Okay, let's take a look at Liz's end. Right here at the back of the boom. It's the most difficult one of all, Liz.
I know. I know it's the tack or the clue,
yeah.
right? Okay. I'm going for the tack.
Wrong. Yeah. Okay, class, what do we say? Oh.
I know, she didn't have a clue.
She didn't have
Bad
a clue.
joke.
Well, it looks like we're getting closer to the water.
Let's get ready to rig the boats. For each crew, I'd like one of you to pick up 2 paddles and a sail, and the other crew member would pick up a rudder and a tiller. Okay, so Colleen, John, let's just grab your stuff on the way through. Take it down, put the sails in your boat. Make sure you put everything right in the boat. Don't leave anything on the dock because we don't want to trip over something on the dock.
I'll get it.
That's it, right? Okay, that's
Paddles, a bailing can, and life jackets for everyone are required by law on a small sailboat.
Okay, John, make sure you put the sail right in on the seat, okay? We don't want it falling over the side of the boat. Now, we've got 2 sails in the back. We've got a mainsail and a jib. And if I remember my sails, that should be the main right there, okay?
The big one is the main
big
one?
Okay. The part with the sailmaker's emblem is the tack. Where does the tack go?
Oh, that's the one I got wrong before.
By your left elbow. How, real close?
Right here?
Yeah, you got
Oh,
it.
okay.
Okay. And the other end is
Tack
the clue.
by the mast.
So let's just find the other end, which was the clue. Okay. And that's going to feed in through this slot here.
Go all the way down the boom to the other end, I think.
Okay, and
That's easy to remember. Tie tack.
yeah, tacks it down.
All right.
We have a piece back here with a shackle on it that's going to attach to the back corner, or the clue. And as we tighten up this, it'll pull in on the foot, and it'll hold it in place. Okay? Somehow we're going to have to get this from here up to there.
My arms aren't that long.
Okay. So what you do is you look for something that's up there that will come down to here. We've got this rope on this side. Okay? And that's called the halyard. It's from the old sailing term of hauling the yards. You know the big yard arms they had on sailing ships? You'd haul the yards up, and then drop the sail from there. So this is a halyard or halyard, and it just ties on. We're going to learn your first knot, which is going to be a bowline.
Like so.
Sailors tie a lot of knots, but the bowline is the king of knots. It doesn't slip, and it's easy to tie.
Yeah, and then through the hole.
Stop it. Okay, up. That's it. Up through the hole. Around through the
tree.
Around through the back, farther up there, around the tree, and into the hole again. Okay, and that's a bowline.
That was close.
And you passed your first test.
All right.
Okay, so that will hold the halyard in place, and the halyard goes up, down through the mast, and exits down here at the bottom. So that well, we want the sail to
First
go
of all,
up.
let's make sure there's no head over the sail. Well, there is a head,
There's
but
a
not
head,
this one.
It's easy to imagine how a square-rigged vessel sails. A sailboat like this used to have to look for the trade winds because it had to have the wind behind it in order to sail, like this. But a modern vessel, we have more control. Although we can't sail directly toward the wind, we can sail much closer to the wind's direction. We do this because of lift. Lift is created as the air flows over the curved surface of the sail. Now we can demonstrate this by speeding the air up over the curved surface of this piece of paper. As the airflow increases, the paper lifts, the same way that the sail is lifted into the wind, taking the boat along with it.
Don't worry, you don't have to be an aerodynamics expert to sail, at least not in the beginning. Finally on the water, Rob has us attempt to sail a figure-8 course around 2 markers. The first thing we learn is that you can't sail into the wind. As you cross the wind, the sail flies to the other side of the boat and you have to change sides to balance and avoid hitting the boom or tipping. There are 2 ways to turn a boat around, or what sailors call tacking. One is jibing, the other's coming about.
First, we'll look at coming about. The blue arrows mark the wind direction. The boat is preparing to come about. It's rounding the buoy toward the wind. The sail lifts. As it turns, the boom swings across. Then the sail fills. Reversing the direction of travel, the boat will now jibe as it rounds the buoy. It turns downwind. The mainsail is blown from one side of the boat to the other, but this time the sail doesn't luff and no power or speed is lost. Here the boat at the top of the course is jibing. The other is coming about. You're maying a bit, you're choking the sail. There you go. Okay, Liz, Liz, jibe right now.
Jibe?
Yeah, come on around.
Okay, bring her in. Okay, and ease her out.
Well, my jibe worked, but my technique left a lot to be desired, so better we watch 2 sailors who've had more practice.
George Roth and his son Jason demonstrate a jibe, where the wind is astern. George pushes the tiller away from the boom. The crew helps the sail over to the other side and then moves quickly to counterbalance. The sail is let out to catch the wind on a downwind leg. Don't use your teeth if you want to keep them. When coming about, they sail as close to the wind's direction as possible, with the sails hauled in close to the center of the boat. This time, George will push the tiller toward the boom. The sail luffs as the bow points directly into the wind. Jason moves to balance the boat, and George crosses over at the same time as the boom. Then they haul in the sheet to regain power and pick up speed.
Once you've gained more confidence in your sailing skills, use the foresail too. It's called the jib. It's set the same as the main. The principal difference is that it's loose-footed, not attached to the boom, but it gives you extra power and maneuverability. It becomes the crew's job to trim this sail to maximize its efficiency, while the main is the helmsman's responsibility.
Now we've been sailing around the course, not really being concerned about where the wind is. It's of great concern to us. So I'm going to add this telltale to your shroud here. And what that's going to allow you to do is take a look at the wind direction. Now you probably found out by now that this boat won't sail directly into the wind. So we always want to keep it up here on the boat. So we have this telltale now telling us where the wind is. If you get stalled or slowed down, just take a quick look at this and it'll tell you where you are, okay? And where the wind is. If it's blowing straight back, you're pointed right into the wind and you need to do something. Okay, pull the tiller towards you. You're doing fine, you're doing fine. See, the wind is now, it's showing us that the wind is pretty close to our bow. So pull it towards you, that's it. And you see that we turn away from the wind, and this is now starting to point more into the boat. We've got the wind on our side, and that's what we want in these first lessons. So we've got a green piece of telltale on the shroud on this side, and I'll put a red one on the shroud on the other side.
Finding the wind is one thing. Knowing how to use it to go where you want is another.
Sails are set according to the wind's direction. It's marked here by the blue arrows. In this example, the boat is heading directly downwind, so the sails are set wing on wing. The mainsail and the jib are on either side of the boat to make maximum use of the wind's push. As the boat turns so the wind is crossing over the side deck, it is said to be on a reach. Right now, the boat is on a broad reach because the wind is partially from behind. The sails are set way out to one side. Now the boat turns so that the wind is crossing directly over the beam of the boat. The sails are hauled in halfway. This is called a beam reach, and it's the fastest point of sail. The boat turns, and now the wind is ahead of the beam. It is on a close reach. The sails are brought in even more. When the boat is sailing as close to the wind as possible, the sails are brought in tight. The boat is now close hauled. Finally, as the boat heads directly into the wind, the sails luff as it is ready to come about.
That was a close call. Uh-oh, here's another one. What do we do? Either out.
Watch out, Lance, that was close.
Rob's not the only one who's nervous. What happens if we tip? Well, we found a couple of good sports who are willing to show us.
Instructors Carolyn Burke and Monica Mole demonstrate how to right a capsized boat.
Hold it, hold it.
Are you okay? Yeah. Okay, I've got the bow. Holding the wind. Get on the centerboard.
The first step is to stand on the centerboard to keep the boat from turtling, turning totally upside down.
That's right.
The boat is kept bow into the wind, so the sails won't catch the wind when the boat is righted.
Okay, swimmer into the wind more. Are you okay up there? Yep. Just now. Okay, hand over hand to the back.
When enough water has been removed to carry the extra weight, the other crew member climbs over the stern. Once you've bailed enough water to get underway, the automatic bailers will take care of the rest.
Our class survived our first lesson with only minor mishaps and a great feeling of accomplishment.
Okay, you're going too fast, guys. Go around and come again. Go around. Go up. Come in a little too fast. Stack around, come again.
To dock, the sails must luff on the final upwind approach, as your momentum brings you in with grace and decorum.
Watch the end of your boom. Right up to me. Right up to me. Here. I'm here. Come to me. Nice duck. Nice ducking. Okay, drop the sail.
There's no doubt about it. Sailing dinghies is a lot of fun. You can spend a lifetime perfecting and enjoying your skills, whether you take up racing or simply sail weekends at the cottage. But let's face it, some people like to sail further on larger boats. It's dreams of cruising that often fuel the desire, or the challenge of big boat racing captures the imagination of many. No matter what size boat you sail, the principles are exactly the same. Most larger boats are keel boats. They have a fixed keel rather than a movable centerboard found in a dinghy. The keel has a dual purpose. It prevents sideways slippage caused by the wind, as the centerboard does in the dinghy. It also provides ballast to hold the boat upright. The weight of the skipper and crew have much less effect on the boat's balance. So let's get started, and I'll introduce you to keel boats.
This is Tarpon Springs, famous for its sponges and a gateway to the Gulf of Mexico. We've come here to soak up some sea lore at the Southern Offshore Sailing School.
Morning. Welcome to Florida. Good to see you again, Liz.
Sure is a lot better than the weather we've been having up north.
Oh, a lot better. Listen, before we go out in the water, I want to make sure we have all the required safety equipment. First thing I have, everybody's got to have a life jacket. So we're going to check. Gotcha?
Oh, is this the one that fits?
Okay. Read down the list, Liz, and tell me what you have.
All right, one approved life jacket, or PFD.
We got that?
What's a PFD?
Personal flotation device. That's what you have on.
All right, it's not autographed. It's monogrammed.
No. Yeah.
Okay. One anchor.
Okay, we got an anchor here. Mary, you're going to put that on the bow, okay?
Okay.
Hold it there for a minute.
One baler and one manual bilge pump.
There's a baler. You know what's in it? Water.
That didn't come from the boat that we're going on, I hope.
No, we imported the water.
All right, one Class B2 fire extinguisher.
Okay, fire extinguisher, and it's all charged. You can put that on?
Lights. I presume they're on the boat.
Yeah. We got running lights bow and stern. What next?
One approved life ring buoy.
Life ring buoy. We got right here.
Okay.
I'll throw that on.
And, not less than 5 meters of buoyant line.
We got that. That's a heaving line in case one of you falls in the water. No falling in the water, okay? And we can throw and get you back up.
And 12 approved flares.
Here we have 12 flares, some daytime flares, some nighttime flares. And finally,
What's that? That's not on the list.
well, it's sort of one of those things, an approved sound signaling device.
Oh,
You remember that from the last one?
how could I forget? I'm glad you remembered.
So, let's get all this stuff on the boat, and our first exercise is getting away from the dock without hitting anything.
You can go first, Mary.
Okay. Would you throw your gear on the boat?
Okay, let's go. One hand. Look at the heavy one.
Undocking didn't seem nearly as difficult as I thought it would be.
A little bit more. Just watch.
We're on a French-built Dufour, a 30-foot racer cruiser. And Rob puts us right to work, once again doing figure eights, only this time under power.
Most keelboats have an engine to make it easier to dock or moor, and to aid on long passages when you need a boost. It's vital that a skipper get a feel for the handling of a boat under power first thing. Handling a large keelboat is not like steering a small dinghy. They're heavy and move slowly. By doing figure eights at half throttle and then full throttle, a skipper can learn the turning radius of the boat. You need to know how wide an arc the boat makes in order to make good judgments when turning the boat to avoid an obstacle or come up to a dock. The first time on any boat, a sailor should do exactly the same exercise.
You see we're scribing a big 8 in the water. This is the bottom part of the 8. Now come over this side. Let's make a big turn to starboard. A little faster than that. No, a little, sorry, not the throttle. A little sharper turn. Bring the tiller over more. Okay, again, look behind you in the water. Do you see the 8?
The next exercise is to try to stop the boat by putting her in reverse. This will give us an idea of the distance the boat will continue to glide before it stops. It's also useful to know this when docking.
Now, propellers have a funny quirk. It's called prop walk. And simply put, it's the tendency of the propeller to pull the boat to one side or the other. It's really evident when you're in reverse, as Liz discovered.
I can't tell my way. This is really heavy.
Hey, Liz, let's make a turn all the way around until you're aiming at the green sign. As soon as you're lined up, we're going to go past the piling on the dock. I want you to throttle down. Ready now? Throttle down. Throttle up. Throttle up. Hold straight line, please. Throttle up. See how long it takes to stop the boat. Okay, throttle down. And what else is happening?
Wow, we're really swinging.
What happened is, as you went into reverse, the boat pulled, in this case to starboard. We need to know that, so that when we dock, we know which way the boat is going to pull in reverse. We've noticed how the boat pulls to one side at slow speeds. This is a result of prop walk. Prop walk occurs when water is pulled from one side. Now, on this particular boat, we have a right-hand prop. This means the rotation will be to clockwise or to the right in forward. Now, in reverse, the rotation is counterclockwise and water is pulled from the port side. That means prop walk will be to the port side. An awareness of which way the boat is going to pull is important when we're docking and undocking.
Now that we're out in the Gulf of Mexico, it's time to hoist the sails. First, we'll get the jib up. That's the smaller sail at the front.
We've got the halyard, which is going to hoist the sail. And Liz, I'm going to get you to pull up on that. You're going to haul down on the halyard while Liz is pulling back. You all set to go?
Ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Feel muscular?
Let's go.
Rob's right. This is just like sailing a dinghy, but the boat's more stable and the sails are heavier to rig and pull in. Coming about's the same. Remember, we turn the bow into the wind, let the jib sheet out, watch the sail luff or flutter as the bow crosses the wind, and once it's on the other side, pull the sail in again. Nothing to it. But Rob's relentless. He believes practice makes perfect.
About again. Ease your sail just a little bit, Scott. Great. That'll give us a little bit of speed. Not too much. That's fine right there. Okay, Mary, let's come about and sheet in as we come through, Scott. Sheet in as we come through. Keep the sail in. That's it. A little bit further. Now, as you're starting to watch, we'll make sure it's all the way through.
Winches are a great labor-saving device. They help ease the strain of pulling in the sails.
Not too quickly. Okay, sheet it right in there. And Mary, you can straighten out now. When we move up from dinghies to keelboats, we have to work with lines that are under a lot more load. So I'm going to show you a safe way of using a sheet and a winch. When first taking up the sheet on the winch, make sure you have 2 or 3 good wraps. Pull in slowly, but when we're putting wraps on, make sure your hand doesn't get caught in a loop and get pulled into the winch. Once you've got tension on the winch, put the winch handle all the way in so it doesn't slip out, and then continue to crank, taking up on the tailing end. When it comes time to release the sheet, right hand on the drum to act as a brake, and then feed nice and easy. It's important when using a winch to use proper technique to avoid any injury.
Now this is what sailing's all about. With both sails up, we're sailing on a beam reach. That means the wind's blowing across the beam or at a right angle to the boat. This is the fastest point of sail, and the foresail, also called a jib or genoa, gives us the extra speed.
The addition of the foresail is more than just added sail area. As the air is forced between the two sails, it's sped up. Now I can give you a demonstration of this. A given volume of air will barely move this piece of paper through a large opening. But if I narrow the opening by closing my lips, the air is sped up. This is called the Venturi effect. So that as the air is forced between the two sails, it speeds up over the mainsail, giving us greater lift.
The cut of the sail also makes a difference. North Sail's designer, Steve Calder.
When we decide to design a sail for a particular kind of boat, we look at the characteristics of the boat. Is it a very heavy type of heavy displacement boat, or is it a very light displacement boat? Therefore, we can have a general feel for how flat or full the sail should be. Sails now, we think of sails aerodynamically like an airplane wing. A sail for a sailboat is basically an airplane wing stood up vertically. It's far more of a lifting surface, allowing boats to sail closer and closer to the wind more efficiently. And that's the reason for triangular sails. Now, we select a certain material to do a certain application for a particular sail, and we test that cloth to find out what the stretch characteristics of it are, if it meets, north spec. And then we go from there to designing the sail. Once we get the design and the panel layout and whatnot established, then it goes to the XY plotter. That machine physically cuts all the panels full scale. After that, all the sails are taped together with a two-sided transfer tape, and then they're run through the sewing machine, sewn together, all the panels. Once the sail's all physically assembled, the edges of the sail are then drawn with lofting battens, luff, leech, and foot. And then the sail gets reinforced, patches, tapes, all that sewn down, and then the hand sewing is done, the grommets, the rings, and whatnot in the corners of the sail, or a headboard if it's a mainsail. And then numbers and all the detail work's finished, and then the sail's basically ready to go. They went from Egyptian cotton to Dacron sails, and that was the biggest step. And I think that's basically what it's come down to, is the evolution process of cloth manufacturing has allowed us to stabilize, if you will, the designed shape of a sail over a larger wind range.
We've seen how sails work and how the jib increases the efficiency of the mainsail. Now we need to look at how to trim your sails to get maximum speed. Sails are set according to wind and wave conditions and are constantly adjusted. In light air, we set the sail with a deep, full curve for maximum power. In heavy air, we flatten the sail to increase speed. Get to know your sailmaker. Invite him aboard. No one knows better how to trim your sails than the people who make them. Now, when sailing with Peter Jern of North Sails Loft, to see how he demonstrates setting sails for heavy winds.
Okay, Rob, our goal as sail trimmers is really to optimize our sail shapes to have the correct amount of power when we're sailing. Power is really the key to it. As sail trimmers, we have a lot of tools available to us to do the trimming with. The first things that we're going to want to do is to flatten the sail, to depower it in general. And we use the outhaul, the baby stay, and the back stay to do that. The outhaul, when you grind it out, will flatten the lower part of the sail. Now that's flattened the whole bottom part of the sail. If we really want to flatten this sail out, we have to work together. You're going to take the baby stay and grind it in nice and hard. That moves the middle of the mast forward, flattening the sail. I'll tighten up the baby stay, the back stay, I'm sorry, and that induces more bend in the sail and flattens it right out. Right. So at this point, the mainsail's really flat. Okay, it's producing very, very little power. In a stronger wind, the boat would stand up straighter, it'd be easier to steer on the helm, and you'd be going faster through the water. And the air would be flowing over the sail, producing power. The other consideration we have to work with is the position of the draft in the sail. If the draft is too far back, you have a very inefficient airfoil. We want to keep the draft in the sail about halfway along, at about 50%, okay? We use the Cunningham to control that. We pull on the Cunningham and it'll distort the cloth and pull the sail shape forward to resist the wind blowing it aft. Why don't you give that a try? Okay, so we can now control the depth of the sail and the position of the depth of the sail. So we know we have a good foil shape. Now we have to make sure the whole sail works. We want to control the amount of twist in the sail. That's the relationship between the top of the sail and the bottom of the sail. The top of the sail can be very wide open, having a lot of twist, or very tight, having very little twist. We control twist with the main sheet and the traveler. If you let the traveler out and sheet in on the main at the same time, what'll happen is the boom will stay in the same place and will reduce twist by pulling down more on the sail. It brings the top of the sail in relation to the bottom. right, that looks really good. Okay, now the sail's wide open at the top. This is the sort of configuration you might use in wind and waves where you needed power. You want to make sure that ticklers fly off the back of the battens at the top of the sail. And that indicates that there's flow. And you adjust the amount of twists so that you have good flow and the amount of power that you want. The jib is pretty much the same as the main as far as our objectives. We want to be able to control the shape of the sail, the depth, the draft, and the amount of twist. So in the end, you know, we're always going to work on the sails. We're going to go round in circles. We're always going to work with the outhaul, the shape, the trim, the amount of twist to try and optimize it all the time. When we're sailing, conditions are always changing, so a sail trimmer's job is vital to how a boat goes. And the guy who pays the most attention to his sail trim is going to have a better balanced boat. It's going to be easier for the helmsman to steer. The boat's simply going to go faster and sail easier.
When it comes to keel boats, we have more to consider than just the sails. As the boat gets larger, we add more and more equipment. Now, it's important that we understand how all of this equipment works together. Then we can sail further and enjoy the boat more. Let's take a look below decks. If we think of the boat as a set of systems, we can see how each part logically connects with the other. Now let's look at 4 areas: the electrical system, propulsion, plumbing, and life support. And we'll see how each depends on the other to do its job.
First, the propulsion system. The engine, of course, provides the power. Fuel is pumped from the fuel tank to the engine through fuel lines. There are a number of filters that remove dirt and water from the fuel along the way. The engine creates the energy to turn the prop shaft and propeller, which causes the boat to move. The engine fumes are sent through the exhaust pipe and out of the boat. The engine itself has to be cooled. In this system, the engine coolant in the radiator is passed through the engine block to dissipate the heat. To start, the engine needs an initial push. Most boats have an electric starter that's activated when you turn the ignition key and which operates off the batteries. They, in turn, are recharged. Here we see the fan belt, which drives the water pump, and the alternator, which recharges the battery. Which brings us to the electrical system. Most cruise boats have 2 batteries, and there is a battery selector switch which allows you to select one or both of them. The electricity is sent from the positive terminal of the battery through a red cable to the distribution panel, where it is routed to supply power to the lights, VHF radio, and the electronics with the flick of a switch. And back to the negative bus bar, and through a black cable to the battery. It's a continuous circuit. Then there's the plumbing system that provides water for the sinks and shower. The water is put through a filler hose from the deck into the freshwater tanks. These can be easily checked. When a tap is turned on, it is routed through lines to a water selector. Then it goes through a water filter, then through the pump, and then either into the cold water system or the hot water system where it is heated. A toilet on a boat is called a head. The water comes from outside the boat and is either discharged directly overboard or piped into holding tanks. The stove is run on its own fuel. In the case of the propane stove like this one, the fuel would come from a tank stored in a safe vented area in the cockpit and piped to a control valve and then to the burners and oven. A solenoid control valve is a safety device and must be turned on to let the gas through.
And there you have the 4 systems on the boat: the electrical, propulsion, plumbing, and life support. But don't get hung up on the details of the systems, because most problems are easy to find and quite easy to correct.
Whether you're at the start of a race or in a busy harbor, sailors have rules to determine who has right of way.
As we've seen in most instances when pleasure boats meet, the powerboat will keep clear of the sailboat. But when we have two sailboats, the rules are different. The rules are defined by the wind, the direction the wind is blowing and how it hits the boats. We have to know two things. First of all, what tack the boat is on, and secondly, whether the boat is to windward or to leeward. First of all, tack. This boat is on a port tack because the wind is striking the port side first. This boat is on a starboard tack. The wind is striking the starboard side first, and the sail is set up to port. Now, when these two boats are meeting, the boat on port tack will keep clear of the boat on starboard tack. Now, if both boats are on the same tack, in this case they're both on starboard tack, the boat to windward will keep clear of the boat to leeward. In this case, as they cross, the green boat will pass well astern. The final rule is overtaking. And the boat that's overtaking the slower boat will keep clear until well ahead.
Fortunately, there's not a lot of traffic in the Gulf of Mexico, but there can be a lot of wind, and when you're a novice, heavy winds can be tough to handle. So how can you take a break to gain better control of the boat and yourself? Well, you learn a maneuver called heaving to, a process of stopping the boat in open water. And in this drill, Skipper Rob tells us how.
Now we're going to heave to. That's just like coming about, except we're not releasing the jib on that side. So Mary, you don't have to work on this one. Okay, Liz, let's come about. And same commands, ready about, ready, and heave to. Fill her down. The jib is cleated and held in place, so as we turn into the wind, it shields the mainsail. When the bow is through the wind, the mainsail luffs, and we turn the rudder hard to leeward. This counteracts the wind force on the jib, and the resulting balance holds the boat in place.
No sailor should set sail without checking the weather forecast first, no matter how sunny the day. Up-to-the-minute marine forecasts are available from the local airport weather office, government weather broadcasts, or local AM/FM radio stations.
Now here are the marine forecasts for the lower Great Lakes, valid until 11 a.m. Tuesday. First for western Lake Ontario. Winds from the west to southwest.
While underway, monitor the forecasts on your VHF radio.
Waves near 0.5 of a meter. For eastern Lake Ontario, winds from the northwest at 10 knots, becoming west to southwesterly 10 to 15 knots later this afternoon.
Government meteorologists use many tools to collect and synthesize weather information, including remote monitoring stations, weather balloons, satellites, and computers, with which they can develop a very accurate but broad picture of weather patterns. But as a sailor, you have to rely also on your own personal observations for local conditions, so keep your eyes open. It's important to watch the sky because the clouds will tell us whether the weather is going to deteriorate. Now, there are two major types of weather systems, warm fronts and cold fronts. But the more violent weather is associated with the cold front, and that's what we'll deal with here. As the colder air forces itself in under the existing warmer air, the warm, moist air is forced up, it forms clouds. The more abrupt the movement in, the more violent the weather associated with the front. Way ahead of the cold front, we're going to see fair weather or cumulus clouds. These indicate a nice day until they start bunching together. And as they bunch together, they'll form altocumulus, which is an indication of rain. Closer to the front, we'll get cumulonimbus, which are the storm clouds and the large thunderheads that we see. And behind that, we'll get altostratus, or rain clouds. And we'll have rain continuing along the edge of the front. So it's important to keep an eye on the sky to see what the weather is going to be over the next little while. When the weather gets rough, it's nice to have a cozy, warm cabin to sit in.
But at sea, we don't have that possibility, so we have to prepare for whatever the weather is going to throw at us. Our first choice is to reef. We do that by lowering the halyard and tying the sail off to the boom. This reduces the amount of stress on the mast and rigging, as well as on the crew and helmsman. Here we see the halyard has been released, so the sail can be shortened and secured at the tack. This is a jiffy reefing system, which is very easy. The halyard is tightened again, and the rest of the loose sail is attached to the boom using the reef lines. With less sail area, the boat is more stable. Now, if it continues to get bad, we may want to heave to. Remember, that's how we back the jib, put the tiller down to leeward, and stop the boat in open water. Here we see seasoned sailor Lloyd Hercott and his crew heaving to. If the weather continues to worsen, we may decide to lie a hull. That's just like heaving to, but we're going to take the sail down and use the windage of the hull to hold the boat in place. Finally, our decision may be to turn and run with the wind and the waves to keep ourselves out of trouble and to keep the boat moving. Well, I don't have that choice. And we're back at it.
So what do you do if you run into a situation you can't handle? Coast Guard Officer Leanne Wright.
There are 3 radio calls which you can use if you find yourself in trouble out in the water, depending on the type of distress which you are in. First of all, there is a Mayday call. This is used for grave and imminent danger. Your boat may be on fire or it may be taking on water. It's a life-threatening situation. A pan-pan, or an emergency call, is used for safety problems. You may have run out of gas, the boat may have broken down, you may have trouble with your engine. The final call which you can use is known as a security call. This is used to alert other vessels in the area of navigational hazards or to issue a marine broadcast, a weather broadcast.
Channel 16 is the international hailing and distress channel. It should not be monopolized for ordinary conversation. Once you've contacted your party, always move to another channel unless it's an emergency.
Cardinal, this is Coast Guard Cutter Spindrift, Coast Guard Cutter Sprinter, Charlie Golf 22.
If the radio brings no results, use your flares, which are part of your emergency equipment. This is a Type A or parachute flare. This is a Type B flare. This is a Type C, a handheld flare. And this is a Type D flare.
As demonstrated by Coast Guard Officer Lawrence Swift.
This die marker indicates your position to aircraft.
We really enjoyed our first day at sea, but sadly, all good things must come to an end. And now it's time for my least favorite part of sailing, docking.
Take the tiller? I'll let you do the docking. Mary, you're ready on the stern line. This is
Consider the wind when docking. When possible, use it to slow you down.
Now reverse. Just watch the bow. Don't steer out too much.
The beam spring line is off the center of the boat.
Step off gently,
Mary
guys,
has it here.
and
It's the most
neutral,
important
please.
line for gaining control.
Bring the boat to a stop. Tiller straight. Great docking, Liz. Hey, nice day.
Well, I'm really amazed we didn't crash, Rob. I don't know. Thanks for the compliment, but if you only knew what my stomach felt like.
And finally, this is how we lock the hitch on to keep the boat from wandering away at night.
Okay.
You try it.
So these two line up together, right?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Okay.
No.
Nope.
Take it off. Pull it out with this hand and just roll the whole thing inside. Just like that. Bingo. That's all there is to it.
Of course, you're not always docking at the end of a good day of sailing. You might be anchoring in some cozy little cove. I took Liz out on another day to see how it's done. One note though, the anchor we used is not recommended for overnight, but it served as a good lunch hook in the rocky bottom.
For an overnight anchorage.
Okay.
Okay, so now the next thing we have to check is the road to make sure that it's not all tangled and knotted.
Which
so
it is.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we'll flake it out on deck so that as we anchor, it pays out nice and smoothly. To secure the anchor firmly, you have to let out the right amount of rope or rode. The recommended formula is 7 feet of rode for every foot of water depth. A minimum ratio would be 5 to 1. For example, in 10 feet of water, you pay out 50 to 70 feet of road. Would you mind turning the engine on, please? Liz, if you take the tiller, Graham and I'll get the mainsail down.
That's a lot of sail you guys have to fold. It's a lot easier being at the helm.
Okay, you want to put a sail sign on here?
Should I head her up into the wind?
Yes, please.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, that's fine right there. There are 3 common types of anchors, each designed to grip different bottoms. The Danforth is a light, multi-purpose anchor. The plow is heavier and, as its name implies, digs deep into the sand and mud. The Bruce has the same general holding characteristics as the plow, but it's lighter.
Hey Rob, this is the part that always scares me. I'm always afraid that wherever I set the anchor that I'm going to drift.
Well, we do have a rocky bottom here, but we're going to come in nice and easy. And we're well sheltered here. So we've got good water depth, so that we've got enough anchor road for the water we're going to be in. And we've got a rocky bottom. The anchor is going to hold fairly well. I don't think we're going to have any problems. But we do want to make sure that we communicate well with Carolyn on the bow, so that I'll work with you and Carolyn to make sure we're in. Okay? Let's just come up into the wind so we can slow down and approach over towards that rock.
Okay. How fast should I be going here?
About this speed. It's nice and easy. Nice and easy.
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost neutral.
Well, we're going into the wind, so we got to keep the engine speed up until we're right where we want to anchor, and we just want to go a little further ahead. Go into neutral now. And if you'd just allow the anchor to just touch the top of the water until we're actually moving backwards, Caroline, okay? And reverse, please. Caroline, as soon as we're moving in reverse, would you lower the anchor? And let me know when you've lowered it.
I think we're in reverse.
Okay. Now slow down. Okay.
It's on the bottom.
Okay, just let it pay out nice and easy. When it's about halfway out, Caroline, would you just snub it around the cleat just to see if we can set the anchor? You see how the bow is swinging back up into the wind again? That means that the anchor is grabbing onto something.
Oh, good.
Okay, so we've got a good feel. Continue to ease.
The water depth here is 10 feet, so Carolyn's paying out 70 feet of road before the anchor's firmly cleated.
The ground tackle has 3 parts: the anchor, the chain, and the rode. They work together to make sure a boat stays firmly anchored in place. The anchor sets by digging into the ground with the flukes deeply buried. The next part, the chain, acts as a shock absorber when waves pull at the boat and also prevents the rode from being chafed on rocks. The third part, the rode, when paid all the way out, acts as a shock absorber from the curve that forms in the line, so that as a wave pulls on the boat, the curve is taken up and the anchor rode itself stretches. So the anchor, the chain, and the rode all work together to make sure that the boat stays firmly in place, especially at night.
But what if your anchor drags and you're aground? Or you simply sail or motor into shallower waters? Here I demonstrate what to do.
Running aground, even on purpose, raised a few eyebrows on shore. First, I asked the crew to put their weight on the leeward side of the boat to see if heeling the boat could free the keel. No such luck.
Listen, that's not working. Let's get the mainsail on.
Then we tried raising the mainsail to see if the wind would heel the boat enough to make her free. Again, no luck. As a last resort, we used the dinghy to drop the anchor in deeper water, and we winched her off.
After running aground, it's a wise thing to check all through holes for any damage. But that's not our only cause of problems with through-hole fittings. It could be from a broken hose clamp, a split hose, or even a corroded valve that breaks off. No matter what the case, we have to be ready to stop the leak. Here we have a valve that has the hose come off. We take a tapered wood plug and we can jam it into the hose, right into the valve, to stop the leak. A situation can become an emergency if you're not properly prepared. Many sailors become captivated by racing. In fact, crewing at a local yacht club is often the best way to learn to sail, and it's not very expensive. Here we have a world championship in the Etchells 22 class. Race courses are designated by floating marks. Most courses are triangular with a leeward, a windward, and a jibe mark. And the first leg is set directly upwind. Here are the Etchells racers at the start of the race. Getting a good position at the start is critical. The first leg is usually upwind, and the boats tack back and forth to get to the first mark. It is on the upwind leg that much of the advantage is won or lost. At the mark, they come about and head on a reaching leg. Depending on the wind's direction, they may launch spinnakers, which requires skill, especially when maneuvering for position at the mark. At the second mark, called the jibe mark because boats have to jibe, the challenge is to get the spinnaker over to the other side of the boat more quickly than everyone else. The third leg is another reach, and at the next mark, they have to pull their spinnakers down. And then on the final leg, it's tacking upwind to the finish line, where error in tactics could mean losing by tenths of a second. One design racing, or regattas, in which all of the boats competing are the same class or type, are fairly common. But there are hundreds of classes, like the Lightning or the International 14, for example. But not all races are one design. Most club races are made up of different classes of boats of varying sizes and shapes. To satisfy the keen racing spirit found at most clubs, rating systems have been developed in which the boats are rated or handicapped. Calculations are made after the race to determine the winner. There are two main rating systems, PHRF and IOR. PHRF stands for the Performance Handicap Rating Formula and actually includes the skipper's record in the equation. Larger boats race to the IOR, or International Offshore Rule. In some races, like the America's Cup, competitors are required to conform to a specific rule. The 12-meter rule is a complicated formula which takes into consideration such things as the height of the mast, the area of the sails, the length of the boat, and even the depth of the keel. But the 12-meter isn't a class. In fact, the boat isn't even 12 meters long. The 12-meter designation harkens back to the old days when boats were rated according to the length of their waterline alone. But it doesn't matter what kind of boat you sail. The rules and the ratings are going to make sure that you enjoy racing as much as anybody else on the water. Before I leave you, I want you to meet some sailors to discover the passion that drives them. Here's George and Jason Roth. For George, it's the thrill of competing and the companionship of his son that captivates him.
Part of my real fun sailing is sailing with my son, Jason, who I sailed with for 6, 7 years, 8 years, I guess, off and on, but the majority of the time he's been my crew. We get along very well on the boat. He criticizes his father often, and gets away with it, and that's as much fun as going the other way where I'm telling him what to do. In some situations, he calls the tacks and calls the circumstances when we're very tight to other boats. And that's just a good working, trusting relationship that I happen to have with my son. One of the things I love about sailing is that generally there's a major respect for competitors. And so while you may be very aggressive, you can still respect your competitors, and your competitors will respect you. And so you've got the room to be where you want to be on the water and do the things you're supposed to do in order to get yourself up the fleet and win. To race, you have to have a sense of fun. You have to have a pretty good intensity, I think, and a pretty strong will that you're going to win and that you're going to make sure that you're up there amongst them. So then you get to be very aggressive. The intrigue I have in racing is the mind game that is going on between you and the wind, and the tactics that you might get into with your competitors in order to position yourself that you are up in the fleet or at the top of the fleet or close to the top of the fleet.
Ed Haltrick's charts are well thumbed. For the past 15 summers, he's been cruising Georgian Bay, one of the finest Great Lakes cruising grounds. For Ed and Carolyn and daughters Jennifer and Vanessa, cruising on board their Ontario 32's become their favorite family pastime.
The fact that we're a keelboat makes vacationing pretty easy. Some people might get mad at me saying this. It's like a mobile cottage. You're able to plunk yourself in different anchorages and just stay overnight. Quite often we meet people out here that we wouldn't see in the city, that we just end up seeing out here summer after summer. We have a lot of trouble remembering their names. I have a bad memory, so I have a little book down there, and you just give me the name of the boat, check it out, and say, "Hi, Charlie, how you doing?" And the kids the same way. There's a two-way radio, you can talk.
This is comfortable, Dad. You're hurting me.
Our first experience with boats was terrible. It was a small dinghy, and Carolyn hates getting orders. Move on this side, move on that side, tippy, do this, do that. And we were invited on a small boat. Cost just a few $1,000s, but we had a super time. It was a keelboat. It just is a lot more stable, and no one had to yell at Carolyn all the time to get on this side or that side. And it was a lot of fun, and we ended up going to this island, and the conditions were just perfect. Very few boats around, sandy beach, just a bit of poison ivy, and not much else. And we saw this, what appeared to be a huge ship turn up over the horizon, and that was a 26-foot sailboat, a white one. Beautiful boat. Still remember the scene right now. That's the thing about sailing. You remember all the great times. And Carolyn remembered that she didn't have any orders that weekend. No one yelled at her, and she says, "Hey, that wouldn't be bad.
I didn't have any
having
kids
one
either."
Of those." And that's all I had to hear. The next week, I went out and bought it. We're gonna make some waves here, kids. If the sails go up, don't pay any attention. Just sit there the whole time. Mom and I have a plan. Kids want to go over to that park that we know? No, we'll go over to this other little, there's another little park around the corner. You go for a swim. You want to try that? Okay. Yeah, you go naked. There's no one there today.
Is Mom taking her clothes off?
No, you can go naked.
I'm not going to go naked. It's fairly stable, a lot of room. We can go off for weekends. The kids have a great time. They can bring their friends along. We're not worrying about puffs of wind coming and everything falling all over. You could get a very tender keelboat, but that is slight bit of wind and you'll keel over quite a bit. But we're really stable on this boat. And so the kids feel safe, we feel safe, and knowing that they're safe, we're not as nervous and so on, and it's just great. Just the family going off together.
Jenny was a little baby and we used to tie a rope around her. Dump her in the water to see how cold it was, and her first word was cold.
And my second word was no.
We have to be really close to be this confined, and you have to learn to get along with each other, and we have a lot of fun.
And I'm stiff from last night.
Actually, this is about the best sail that we've had in a long time.
I know.
If you think about it.
You don't have to be a world-class sailor to enjoy racing. Across the country, thousands enjoy the spirit and camaraderie of local club racing. And it's no longer uncommon to see women skippers like Wendy Lowe, owner of a 24-foot Thunderbird.
I like the excitement of the competition, and what I really enjoy is getting out there and trying to use my skills at outsmarting the other guys. It's tactical as much as anything else. It's learning how to make your boat go and learning which side of the course to go, read the wind, that kind of thing. I really enjoy it. It's a good, relaxing hobby.
7, 8, 9, up. The blue marker signifies the 5-minute warning. For some sailors, winning is everything, and some become a regular Captain Bligh. But for most, it's a personal test of skill. No two races are the same. Each race offers new challenges to your ability and knowledge, and the intensity of a race course quickly washes away the tensions of everyday life. Up! You don't have to own a boat, nor do you need a lot of money to get involved. Crew member Gord Burt explains.
If you're interested in the sport and if you get involved, you certainly don't need to have much of an investment other than a good pair of foul weather boots and some foul weather gear for offshore work or dinghy racing. I guess either a wetsuit or a good dry suit is probably you as crew is the major piece of investment that you have to make. A friend introduced me to a member of the club here, and I did some crewing on his boat, and just over time you get to know more and more people, and if they're looking for crew that'll come out on a regular basis, and if you're willing to make that commitment, you can usually get invited aboard to and asked to participate.
You heard it. There's a world of adventure out there. You may want to cruise and explore, or if you're more competitive, you could try crewing for a racing skipper. But whatever your choice, I guarantee you're going to have fun. Now, don't expect to master sailing all at once, but expect to learn something every day you're out. There's a lifetime of learning. Believe me, I'm still finding out new things. Go back and review this tape often. And when you've mastered, say, setting your sails, then start playing with the controls to fine-tune your sail trim in various wind and wave conditions. A final word. A sailor must be resourceful and self-sufficient. It's you and the elements. That's the best part. Learn the basics of good seamanship and safety. Keep your mind alert and sharp, and rely on your own best judgment. It will hold you in good stead. Well, I'll stop talking so you can start sailing. Enjoy.
This program is part of an excellent series called The Basics, and they include learning to sail, navigation, spinnaker sailing, bareboat chartering, and together they add up to a first-class learning experience to help you become a complete sailor. Learning to sail covers the basics of sailing and safety. Once you've mastered the skills on this video, you'll be able to sail a dinghy or keelboat with confidence. And every sailor thinks about sailing beyond his own territory. Well, in navigation, we sail some of the most beautiful cruising grounds in the world, and we teach you the skills to explore those new horizons yourself. And we all think of that idyllic vacation, sailing some turquoise waters in some far-off paradise. Well, in bareboat chartering, we teach you how to do it. My co-host is world sailor and charterer Patience Wales, and believe me, Patience has sailed everywhere. In spinnaker sailing, you'll learn how to master that tremendous sail that gives you the power that you really want. And you'll also learn how to use a cruising spinnaker. Your host is Tom Whidden, America's Cup sailor, and Dennis Connor's tactician. I know that these 4 videos are going to be a much-used reference in your library. And they're a great getaway, too. I mean, you just put your feet up and watch and indulge your sailing dreams. We've also produced 4 books to accompany the video series. They're Basic Sailing and Cruising Skills, Intermediate Sailing and Cruising Skills, Coastal Navigation Skills, the 3 that I wrote, and Celestial Navigation Skills by John Perriton. The books provide a structured learning experience and are full of illustrations, theory, and exercises that'll let you practice your skills. The videos are $29.95 plus shipping and handling, and the books are $14.95 plus shipping and handling. For ordering information, call 1-800-347-SAIL, 800-347-SAIL. If you can't wait till weekends to go sailing and long for the feel of a deck underfoot, then come to Sail Magazine, where every photo, every article, every diagram captures the spirit of sailing, where every word takes you one step closer to being the top flight seaman you long to be. Every month, Sail Magazine takes you afloat, outfitting you with a wealth of news, facts, tips, and product information you can put to use at once. So whether you're a novice or a skilled boat handler, find out for yourself how much you can get out of Sail Magazine by calling 1-800-678-2666 for 12 monthly issues at the low basic rate of $21.75.